I was 17 the first time a grown man laughed in my face and told me I didn't belong in the room. Not a nervous laugh, not a joke between friends laugh, but that slow, confident kind that says, "You're invisible to me." And I remember standing there holding a stack of notes I'd worked on for months, thinking, okay, so this is how it feels when the world decides who you're allowed to be. It happened in a glass conference room on the top floor of a tech incubator downtown. One of those places with exposed brick, overpriced coffee, and people who wear confidence like it's a tailored suit. I was there because my public school had partnered with the program, and somehow my name ended up on the list. I didn't look like anyone else in the room. My jacket was borrowed, my shoes were scuffed, and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. But I knew my work was solid. I knew it in my bones. The man who laughed was named Victor Hale. At least that's what his badge said. Mid-40s, perfectly groomed, the kind of guy who never had to wonder if his voice mattered. He skimmed my proposal for about 10 seconds, then leaned back in his chair and said, "This is ambitious. For someone like you." He didn't even bother lowering his voice. People around the table smiled awkwardly. No one corrected him. Someone like you. That phrase followed me for years. I'd grown up being the quiet kid the one teacher said had potential but never resources. The one classmates copied homework from but never invited anywhere. I learned early that if you don't fit the picture people have in their head, they'll decide your limits for you. So when Victor dismissed my work as cute and suggested I focus on something more realistic, I nodded, thanked him, and walked out like it didn't crush me. But here's the thing, nobody tells you about moments like that. They don't always break you. Sometimes they light a fire you didn't even know you had. That night I sat on the floor of my bedroom laptop, balanced on my knees, replaying his words over and over. Cute, ambitious, someone like you. I could have quit. Honestly, that would have been easier. But instead, I opened my files and started tearing my project apart, not because it was wrong, but because I wanted it to be undeniable. Weeks turned into months. While Victor was pitching investors and posting motivational quotes online, I was debugging at 2 in the morning, learning things no one was teaching me, failing quietly, fixing quietly. There were days I thought, who am I kidding? Then there were moments where everything clicked and I'd laugh out loud alone in my room like, yeah, that's it. The turning point came when I applied to present at an independent demo night. No big names, no fancy sponsors, just builders and thinkers who actually listened. I almost didn't go. Old habits die hard. But I showed up anyway, hands shaking again, same borrowed jacket. Halfway through my presentation, someone in the back interrupted me. "Wait," he said. "Are you saying the system adapts in real time?" I nodded. Another voice chimed in. "That's not possible with the architecture you described." And for a split second I felt 17 again standing in front of Victor Hale. But this time I didn't shrink. I smiled and said, "It shouldn't be possible. That's why I rebuilt the architecture." I turned my laptop around and walked them through it step by step. The room went quiet. Not awkward quiet. Focused quiet. The kind that means people are actually seeing you. Afterward, people crowded around my table. Real questions. Real interest. One woman shook her head and said, "I don't know how you pulled this off, but it's brilliant." I went home that night and cried, not because I was sad, but because for the first time I felt seen. Word traveled faster than I expected. A week later, I got an email inviting me to pitch at a regional showcase. Guess who was on the judging panel? Yeah, Victor Hale. I thought about declining. Part of me wanted to protect the fragile confidence I'd built, but another part of me, the louder part, said no, this is the moment. The day of the showcase, Victor didn't recognize me at first. He was busy talking, laughing, holding court. When my name was called, he glanced up, frowned slightly like he was trying to place me. I started my pitch. Same calm voice, same steady pace. I didn't perform. I explained. About 3 minutes in, Victor leaned forward. 5 minutes in, he stopped smiling. When I got to the live demo, someone on the panel asked, "Is this pre-recorded?" I shook my head and said, "You can interrupt it if you want." They did. It kept running. Victor cleared his throat. "Can you explain how you handled the scaling issue?" I looked directly at him and said, "The issue everyone assumes can't be solved." A few people chuckled. Not at him exactly, but not with him either. He nodded stiffly. After the pitch, the room buzzed. Judges whispered to each other. When the scores came in, my project placed first. Victor stood up, walked over, and offered his hand. "You surprised me," he said. I shook his hand and replied, "That seems to happen a lot." His smile froze. Winning didn't fix everything overnight. It didn't erase the years of doubt or the sting of being underestimated. But it changed the conversation. Doors opened. People listened differently. And Victor. He sent me an email a month later asking if I'd like to collaborate. I never replied. Not out of spite, but because I finally understood something important. I didn't need his approval anymore. Here's what nobody prepares you for. When you win, really win. Not everyone claps. Some people get uncomfortable. Some get quiet. Some rewrite the story to make themselves look better. I saw comments online saying I was lucky that I had help, that I was an exception. Same old script, different words. But I also saw messages from kids who sounded like me. I thought this stuff wasn't for people like us. I almost quit, but your story made me try again. Those messages mattered more than any trophy. Looking back, the hardest part wasn't building the project. It was surviving the moments when people decided my worth before I ever opened my mouth. The jokes, the dismissals, the polite rejections that sting worse than outright no's. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Being underestimated is painful, but it's also powerful. Because when you rise, you don't just prove them wrong. You change the rules they were so comfortable with. So here's my question for you. When someone decides you don't belong, do you walk away? Or do you stay long enough to make them rethink everything they thought they knew? Was Victor wrong to judge me based on how I looked and where I came from? Or was he just a product of a system that rewards confidence over substance? And how many people like me never get the chance to finish their sentence before being dismissed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know if you've ever been underestimated, laughed at, written off, and what you did next.